Listen, what I thought this episode was going to be and what it ended up being are a little different and in such a good way. We are still talking social media this month, and today talking about Instagram and TikTok. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation because we're talking about ways that you can free up your time on social media, keep things a little bit easier so that you can create more impactful content that's going to drive conversions and brand awareness on the platforms that are most effective for you. We talk a little bit about how you can repurpose it on all other platforms, but really talking about how you can maximize TikTok and maximize Instagram to build community, build awareness, build trust, and engage and have better conversations with people, create collaborations, all of the things, while creating content that makes the most for those platforms that's going to get the most visibility, because that's really the trick, right? Organic reach is down in most platforms. It's not very big. And so if you're going to be spending time pushing out content, you want to be doing it in a way that's going to get the most reach possible. So to share all of this information with you, my guest today is Amanda Kohal. Amanda is the founder and digital strategist of the Wolfe company and creator of the original Instasite. Amanda provides business owners with access to reputable resources, community connections, and trusted guidance, education to start converting on social. After working as a brand marketing manager in corporate, Amanda ventured on her own and took her love of digital marketing and ran with it. From helping clients earn $10,000 from just 2 Instagram stories, $77,000 from one DM, and $28,000 in social media launches, Amanda has turned many personal brands and service-based businesses into cash cows. Her efforts have awarded her 2 RBC Plus Women of Influence nominations and a bronze in the 2019 Canadian Marketing Associate Awards in the customer experience category. I feel like I've said this more and more on this podcast. You're going to have to listen to this episode a couple times because there's so many good things, and you don't need to tackle it all right away, but really just getting excited about video, getting out there, working on creating relatable content. And remember that relatable means you being you and your brand being your brand and your organization showing up as itself, not relatable in the standpoint of, trying to please everybody. Showing up as you. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people, but I think she might inspire you to make it happen. So give this episode a listen and let me know what you're excited about jumping into first. Before we get into this episode, it is brought to you by our quiz, Should You DIY Your Website? So if you're thinking about social media and how you're going to drive traffic to your website, how your website's going to drive traffic to social media, how all of these things are going to play together, making sure your website is functioning in the way that it needs to is going to be super helpful. Plus, all of the messaging that you put into your website is great content to create on social media. So it kind of makes it easier for you to come up with ideas and to create those short videos that you need to create on TikTok and Instagram. So go to thefirstclick.net/quiz, take our free quiz. It's going to walk you through some questions that'll help guide you on where you're at with time, budget, resources to figure out if it's time for you to have somebody help you build your website or if you're ready to tackle it all on your own. So again, that's thefirstclick.net/quiz. I can't wait to see your results. For now, let's get into the episode. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern. Each month, we dive deep into a digital marketing or fundraising strategy that you can implement in your organization. Each week, you'll hear from guest experts, nonprofits, and myself on best practices, tips, and resources to help you raise more money online and reach your organizational goals. Hey, please join me in welcoming my guest today, Amanda Kohal. Amanda, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sammy.
So there's so many different social media sites out there and new ones being added all the time. But why Instagram? Why do you love Instagram as a platform?
Okay, well, Instagram and I actually have a love-hate thing going on. As I'm sure most business owners have found their trials and tribulations with that space, but it does hold a special place in my heart because it's where I first built my business and really built my communities of who I call Wolfies in the early days. And I say early days, but the good days maybe of Instagram 2019, 2020,
Yeah.
2021, when things were really moving and grooving over there. And I found it to be is the most powerful space and container to really cultivate community and a community that converts. And when I talk about conversion, I don't just mean monetary, which is, great for the business side, but I'm talking about a community of people that become a part of your network, or that become advocates of your brand, business, and message, become super fans of yours, depending on whatever it is that you're sharing on social media and across the internet. So I really discovered all of this through the power of using Instagram stories. I like to say that I go into my social media lab and experiment with a few things. I was posting every day to the feed. I was getting burnt out, and I also said, why don't I just try something here? I want to see what would happen if I stopped posting to the feed and only posted to stories and maybe did a live here and there. What would happen? Because the feed will get you visibility for some new eyes, a very small percentage, but stories is for your OGs. It's for people who have been following you for a while. They're already really familiar. So how do you grow when your content is only being shown to people who are already within your community and space? So this is what I was kind of discovering in my journey, and what led to what we'll talk about later, me developing my signature method, which is the Instasite and this new approach to social media in general.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's so good, because you're talking about trying to figure out a way to make the platform working within the parameters of the platform, but making it work for you, as opposed to feeling like you have to do, all of the things in all of the different ways that, it's more about testing and figuring out how can you make the platform work for you. And we're going to get into your signature method, which I'm super excited about. But if people are not on Instagram, could you kind of just talk about the social proof that's there with social media platforms? Like, why might we want to even just have a small presence, even if we're not crazy active on Instagram? Why might we still want to have an account there?
The number one reason is, I think it's over 40% of people now are doing their initial search on social media as opposed to heading over to the Googler. We're literally going to sites like Instagram, sometimes Facebook groups, and also TikTok. And we're searching for brands, businesses, as well as niches and audiences, our people on those spaces before we're going over to Google. So it's a little bit more top of funnel now, whereas social media was once deeper in the funnel. You usually built the awareness over on a space like Google when you're searching for something, or you get a referral and then you're redirected over to a social media site. Now the script has flipped. You start on social media and you go deeper onto somebody's website, landing page, checkout page, or even their other platforms on the internet.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think it also just builds that validity that you exist. Like, to your point, like, we go to social media and the social media platforms pop up higher in search anyway. So if people are seeing you there, they're like, okay, this company is legit. And then if they look at your site and they see no new content, they might be a little bit like, what's going on here? But, we could dive deep into that and talk about that all the time. But I want to talk about kind of like dive deeper into this Instasite thing that you've created, this signature method that you have. And why don't you tell us kind of what that's all about and how you kind of came up with that whole concept?
Yeah, it was honestly by accident in many ways. I had been doing a version of this approach and strategy since 2021, when I boycotted the feed and did everything in stories. And I've always been a big fan of focus on the people and the things that are right in front of you, instead of always chasing and, shiny object syndrome, getting new leads, new followers, more. Focus on the people who are already there, because as I said earlier, they become the advocates for your brand, business, and message, and share it with their networks. So that's what was happening when I cut off the source, being the feed, and my community learned that the only way that they could get access to fresh daily content was by either going into my stories or watching one of my weekly or bi-weekly lives, if I was even going to go live that day. That was literally the only way. And, as I was posting more and more, I was experimenting with different types of content as well. So I wasn't just posting my usual, we're going to do a tutorial. I had like a little handheld whiteboard at the time. On my lives, I'd always whiteboard, scribble. It was kind of like mad scientist-y, but really fun. And I'm just a visual learner myself. And it's the way that I communicate my message too. But people were starting to get a peek into who I was as a person, the person behind the business. I shared a lot about my personal life, as well as when my husband and I packed up our stuff and moved to Mexico. I don't know if it was because the environment was interesting. It probably was, because I know the content that I was posting was really kind of run of the mill stuff that you would never think would be interesting. Like, I was showing you how I would make my smoothie, how I learned to cut a mango from TikTok, just floating in the pool, like just nonsense, really. But this is how I was connecting with people. And I was actually converting more from the stories where I shared my personalities, just the little musings of my day and quirks that I have, as opposed to when I was doing, a hard call to action and physically putting that link up there and telling people to click the link in my bio. So I was building real relationships. And it was last year, I was really thinking about the social spaces, because TikTok had just kept growing and growing. And I was realizing that TikTok algorithm is so fantastic for reach and visibility. Every time you post, your content gets seen by about 90% of new eyes. Whereas on Instagram, your posts get seen by, if you're lucky, 5% of people who are already following you. So that was like a little light bulb moment in my head of, why in the world are we spending so much time and money and energy creating for Instagram a space that is getting us very little ROI, financially, as well as just, fruitfully, and kind of reassurance that what we're posting is good? Why would we not take those resources and put them on a space like TikTok that actually is built for visibility? Make that the primary content creation space, and now repurpose, slice and dice that content, and drive people from TikTok over to your Instagram or over to whatever other social media channels you're using. So it was like, holy smokes, we've been using social media all wrong. I went back to my scribbles and my mad scientist ways. I literally lying on the floor on my stomach. For some reason, this is like soothing to me, of my parents' house, because my husband and I were living there at the time. Our house was being renovated. And I was just drawing out this entire strategy. And I was like, okay, we're going to put the platforms into two different buckets. One bucket is those platforms that are good at visibility, reach, and growth. And then the other bucket is the platforms that are good at nurturing and converting. And guess which one fell into each? We got Instagram and nurturing conversion, and we've got TikTok amongst others, we can get into that is in the growth and visibility space. So at the very least, if you're only using those two platforms, if you have access to them, because I know TikTok is banned in some regions, you're cooking with peanut oil and you are covering all of your bases. You're looking at, how am I approaching my strategy from a growth perspective? How am I looking at it from building community, and how am I converting, as opposed to what gurus are typically focused on, which is, how do you get 10K followers on a platform? What is that 10K followers going to do for me in terms of building a real network as well as converting in my business? Nothing. So we want to take it from a holistic approach.
Yeah. And you're like blowing my mind right now. And I hope that everybody will kind of just go back and re-listen to just even that whole section, because there's so much good. And I wasn't taking notes. So I'm going to try to make sure I hit on all of the things that you were saying. Like, my brain was just firing. But I want to touch on, because we also had an episode this month that talked about Gen Z and how can we target Gen Z. And so what I love about this approach with Instagram and TikTok is that it allows you to hit also a broader demographic, a broader audience, because we know Gen Z is super active on TikTok. They're more active on Instagram for sure than Facebook. You've got your millennials on Instagram as well. So I think you're spot on with the organic reach and how you're utilizing those platforms. But I think also, just to say, like, that even if you just do those two platforms, you're also reaching your entire donor base, which can be really fantastic. But what I want to ask you about is, I love that you were showing up in stories just as yourself. And I think that's also why TikTok and stories are so popular with people, because we know that we want to connect with the brand, like the people behind the brand, not just the product. So if I'm a nonprofit organization and, maybe my CEO or my executive director isn't super comfortable on camera, or we're struggling as a team to kind of figure out how do we become more personal while also still being brand and mission focused. It's different when you're a personal brand like you and I, where it's us, we're the face of the company, versus a nonprofit organization. How might we want to start to think about how we show up in those lives or in those stories to still make it conversational and fun while not kind of running off the rails?
Yeah. I always say a good starting point for those who maybe don't have the ability to show their face because they're working for an organization and that's not the vibe, or they are not quite comfortable yet showing up on camera. Because spoiler alert, you will have to show up on camera at some point. But here's a way
and you can do it, and it will be okay.
It's like, is just rip off the Band-Aid. And when you're doing video, the first one, the second one, the third one, it's going to be a little bad. It's going to be a bit of a dumpster fire. But you're warming up. It's like a vocalist before they go on stage. They don't just make that their first time that they're singing in the day. They're doing their warm-up. So treat those first few videos as the warm-up. And you'll start to get in a groove and a momentum and really find your voice that way. But the easiest way to start, I think, and this is also a popular format across socials, is point of view content. Show me a day in the life from your perspective and do a voiceover.
Yeah.
Voice over that. It can become so intimate. We know audio is very intimate. And funny, entertaining, captivating, educational type of content. And personally, that is a format that I really love to consume. I'm just sort of testing out doing the voiceover vlog content, because my bread and butter is really what I call talking head, face to camera. I'll talk for days. And I got comfortable doing it when I was doing my stories. But start there, and then you can kind of test out here and there. That's the beautiful thing about social and digital, because you don't have to make it perfect the first time, and it's not going to be perfect. I still, to this day, every time I post, notice something, and I'm just like, oh, shoot. Like, I missed that. I can't believe I missed that. And this will be a good story as we go a little bit deeper into the Instasite kind of thing and how I accidentally went viral after I thought I made a mistake. But you will always notice something. There's always something to improve on. So get your feet wet with doing voiceovers. Show us what's going on. It is the most bingeable content and it is the most unique type of content because only you can show that perspective.
Yeah.
Sure, the format other people might be doing, but it is the most unique content that is on the internet right now.
Well, and going live on stories could be a great place to start because they disappear. So if you're nervous, then don't start creating videos for TikTok yet. Start on stories because okay, or you could just delete it right away, whatever. But what you put up there is not going to be up there forever. And I think the other thing to note is that as smaller organizations that are starting to build and grow their presence, not that many people are going to see your stories, which I know sounds counterintuitive to say because why am I going to put things out there if people aren't going to see them? I say that because it's okay to get started. Not a lot of people are going to see them. So now's the perfect time to really start to build and grow and refine your comfortableness on camera. And then to your point, as you start to just be authentically you, that's going to help you grow faster and with the right audience. Because you said earlier, how do I get 10,000 followers? Well, that's a metric that means nothing for conversion, sales, and whatnot. So I think, what you're saying is brilliant, and just get started. The last thing I want to say, and would love for you to touch on this piece, is we also don't want hyper polished videos. So there's something in the authenticity of it being a real human with a real video that's taken on an iPhone that has some mistakes. That just makes you seem like a normal person.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah. And I'm questionably normal, but we're here, we're real. But I always say the people who are best at social media are the ones who know the least amount about it. It took me a little bit of time to get onto TikTok. I feel like I was a little bit thrown off by all the rules of Instagram. I was expecting it to be the same over on TikTok when it is literally the most low lift platform I have ever used. And the fact that I could just pick up my phone, point, shoot, or talk to it makes me feel like, okay, there's a space for me because this is a type of content people want to consume. And more importantly, I enjoy creating it. This is my preferred method. So you're going to learn as you go. You got to get out of that analysis paralysis and just post it. As I said, it's not going to be perfect the first time. My first video is terrifying, not only because I was dyeing my eyebrows at the time and they were huge. But it was just so stiff because I thought it had to be perfectly curated, and it doesn't. You'll notice, especially on TikTok, the comment section is its own community and content on its own. It's really quite a special space, and people will latch on to your quirks. They'll root you on. People want to see the journey and say to their friends, I knew so-and-so back when. They were stumbling, mumbling over their words. They had no idea what they're doing. Look at how far they've come. And my best example of this is a podcast I listened to called Absolutely Not by comedian Heather McMahon. Are you listening to that at all?
No, but I'll have to put it on my list.
Highly recommend. She's so funny, highly relatable. She started her journey on Instagram stories as well. She had under 10,000 followers, but there was something about her. I felt like I was on FaceTime with a friend, and I feel like she's my friend, and I talk about her like she's my friend. She is not. She is famous, and she doesn't know me. But she's now doing world tours, and her podcast gets millions and millions of downloads and listens every single week. And I remember her when she started on stories, had no idea what she was doing, but she was just putting the content out there, and we all fell in love with her. She is ours now, and we will be there for her as she continues to grow. And it just makes it so special for the community too, because you have been a part of something.
Yeah. Well, and I think perception is reality. And so if you're being authentic and showing up on these platforms and really putting yourself out there and engaging with your community, to your point, when we feel like we're an OG of that brand or that nonprofit or that person, it means we're going to refer them out to more people. We're going to share those TikToks or those videos with more people. We're going to continue to back them because we feel like we're part of this exclusive club. Like we feel lucky to be a part of. And I love that you mentioned the community in the comments and how it kind of all comes together to play there. Like I think the ability to really engage in a unique way and have conversations like that to me is the conversion on social media. The conversion is not the purchase. The conversion is how can I take this conversation and then now be able to take it offline into either email or a phone call or another way that we can kind of dive deeper and match up values and vision to say like we're the right fit for your dollars or for an engagement or collaboration or what have you. And I think that's the power in social media that we tend to forget. So I like that you brought all of that up. So I'm sure we've thoroughly overwhelmed our listeners because video is something that most of them are still very, very nervous about. So I hope that you are inspired to try to get on at least stories and get started there, even if you're not ready to take the leap to TikTok. But I want to kind of jump to the InstaSite now and kind of if we don't have anything in the feed, how do we make sure that we're showing up still as relevant and current if people are finding our profile?
Okay. So yeah, let's break this puppy down. It's really going back to those two buckets. Okay. But let's start with Instagram. This is kind of your foundation and your base. And remember, Instagram is a space to nurture, cultivate that community and convert, whether monetary or as a part of the community as a whole and super fans and all of that kind of good stuff. So with the InstaSite, it is what it sounds. It's like a website, but for Instagram. And as we mentioned earlier, it's because more than 40% of people are now searching for a brand or business through social media over Google. So why do we not mimic that searchable experience on a space that they're doing their initial search for? Hence the InstaSite. So it mimics the experience of a website. You've got a static 15 grid page with a footer, and you've got all the necessary information that you would have on a website. Case studies about the company, a little timeline, testimonials, reviews. You've got high value content mixed in there. You've even got a navigation of where to find you online, potentially to even bring people over to your email list or other platforms, as well as how to navigate this InstaSite. Because at first glance, it might be, well, what do I do with this? Where do I go? Where's the new content? So we want to tell people where to go, how they can get new content, much like I did when I boycotted the feed and told everyone to go and watch my stories. And I did that by posting about it, one post saying, watch my stories. I'm not posting to the feed. I put it in my profile and I constantly talked about it in my stories and my lives. So eventually traffic went over there. So you set up this static grid. And what we found is that a viewer of your profile to follower conversion happens much faster because you now have this bird's eye view of a business, and it's easy to decide within seconds if you connect with the content or you don't. Most cases, people will connect with the content and follow you, and now go and take a look at your stories if you're posting there. Once the static grid is up, there's a few spaces you can continue to post ongoing content to not only appease the algorithm and say, Instagram, I'm still here, I'm still posting, just not in the way that you want me to, but in a way that works for my capacity and how I want to run my business. And I'm now going to be posting what I call featured posts, which are the 3 pinned posts at the top. And I typically recommend posting there at least once a quarter or as needed. And you can post any type of content in these 3 pins. It can be a 3-part content series. You can do case studies up there. You can launch a program up there. You can drive traffic to an event, whatever it is. And it is also static on your grid, pinned to the top. It looks beautiful. As well, it's usually high value, engaging content. Cycle through that at least once a quarter. You've now gone from posting every single day to Instagram to posting at minimum 4 times a year. 4 times a year, which is like,
that's amazing.
Wild. Like, what are you going to do with that time now? You can do anything with that time now instead of like stressing. It's set up. You optimize your profiles on Instagram, including the highlights. We really treat highlights like the menu on your website page, except they're a little bit more interactive. You have the ability to add link clicks to take you off of Instagram or to redirect to other content on your Instagram page or other channels. You also have engagement stickers to really boost the visibility of your story bubble when the highlight is initially posted. So it's a really, really great space. From those, other than those featured posts, you're going to be posting daily to your stories. Weekends are optional. And when I say daily, I mean like 1 to 3 stories. And you don't even have to post to stories if you don't want to. You can simply treat the static grid as a presence play on Instagram. Because remember, people are searching on social media now for you or for niches, brands, businesses, as opposed to Google. So why not have that set up at the very least? And then maybe you're really into blogging. So that's the space that you're creating content for. And then the last space is Reels. So you can get, that tiny percentage of non-follower eyes on your content. But I do not recommend creating in the Reels app. I honestly recommend creating in TikTok first and using that as your primary content creation platform, transcribing those relevant videos, downloading them without the watermark, and then posting them as Reels. I leave them on the feed for about 72-ish hours, and then I simply toggle them off the feed, and they live in the Reels tab forever as extra content. And I mentioned that one of the posts on the static Insta site is dedicated to navigation of the Insta site as well as your other channels. In that post, you can say what you're going to find in the Reels. And it might be tutorials. It might be the behind the scenes of the business. It might be get ready with me's, day in the life content, whatever it is that you're sharing. It's about providing that clarity to your audience and communicating to them and helping them navigate the space. They'll catch on quickly. People know how to use these apps. They know where the link in the bio is, kind of thing. Just a little bit of direction. So you got your feed, you're moving and grooving on social. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because for people that are trying to visualize this, we can link up in the show notes at thefirstclick.net/219 some examples so you can see, right? You have some examples we can share.
Tons.
Yep,
tons.
Perfect.
There's over 200 people who have implemented the InstaSite to date, which is wild. We will talk about that another time, maybe. So everything's set up on your Instagram. It's now time to take a look at, well, how do I drive traffic to my InstaSite or my website? I want to grow my email list, whatever it is. If stories is only shown to people who are following me and a small percentage of people are going to see these reels. Well, you're going to pair up the InstaSite with a platform like TikTok. You could also use YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, your blogs, to get that organic reach and traffic and visibility. So you create once on your primary platform of choice. I do recommend TikTok. You download everything and you slice and dice and repurpose across whatever other channels you're using. If you are using multiple channels, and let's say you're using LinkedIn as example, at the very least, or you want to use LinkedIn, I recommend setting up your profile, optimizing it just as a presence play, because when people do go into Google and search for your name or your business, because this is going to be a new, not business, but your niche, this is going to be a new functionality of Google. They're combining AI with search. And now your actual posts are going to show up in search as opposed to just text and redirecting you to a website, which is pretty cool. But when you have a LinkedIn profile, it is the first social media that shows up in search. I think it's because it's probably the most credible. There's a little bit of a paper trail there. It's a lot easier to lie about what you do on Instagram and TikTok than it is to say that you worked at XYZ company over on LinkedIn. Like, the receipts are there. We've got a paper trail. So this shows up first, and LinkedIn is fantastic for visibility. There's many ways that you can post and engage in that space, but at the very least, I say get some presence on there for search reasons. And then you're using two platforms, and you've got this strategy engine that is working for you. And my example is through my own socials. So I am the cobbler with no shoes right now. I have been busy building clients' Instasites. Mine is still incomplete. I have not posted to my feed in quite some time. I haven't even posted to the TikToks in like over a month. But through this strategy, I have created timeless and evergreen content that is working for me in the background, and I'm still growing over on Instagram as well as over on TikTok by not even having to post. I just posted content that is high value related to what it is that I do that is still getting circulated on both spaces. So I've now bought myself some time to finish my own Instasite, finish up work with clients, and like do other things in my business without feeling like I have to physically be live and creating content in the moment. You're really now giving yourself a lot more space and essentially automating your socials.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think also want to really make sure we highlight, what you said with creating the content in TikTok, downloading it, and all of the places that you can repurpose. So just even thinking about platforms you're not on yet, like maybe you don't have a huge YouTube strategy, but you can then now at least be publishing YouTube shorts, or maybe you don't have a huge Pinterest strategy, but you can now do Pinterest video pins. Like, I think the name of the game here is really to understand that video is going nowhere. It's only getting bigger, and platforms are really prioritizing that and have for years. So, I mean, if you take away nothing from this, it is social can help you build your presence and credibility, but video is really what's going to take you to that next level, and don't be scared of it. So I love the Instasite concept. I've taken a look at a few of them, and I think organizations can really find that space, like you said, and then allow the creativity to happen. I love that you're taking that break, because sometimes when you do, you're not continuing to push like, okay, well, what am I going to talk about? What do I want to talk about? It allows you to have that space and breathe a little bit, get a little bit creative, and have some fun. Whiteboard it out, take it to the drawing board, and just kind of see what you and your team can come up with, as opposed to being in that grind of I must post this all the time. But know that you have a professional look out there that people can see and connect with.
Mm-hmm. Bingo.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so many good things, lots of things, and I know you have an offer for listeners. Amanda, are there any kind of last words or words of motivation that you might want to give listeners about just getting out there and putting themselves out there?
You got to just do it and get messy with it. Nobody is looking at it with a magnifying glass like you are. Most cases, people are just swiping by or tapping through for a few seconds. So do it for you, and do it for your own creation of what styles do I really like putting together before you think about appeasing an algorithm, because that's how you're going to get the most authentic content, and how you're not going to burn out, because you're actually going to enjoy showing up, going live, doing the TikToks, doing the Instagrams, whatever it is, as opposed to just something on your task list because a guru told you need to post X amount of times a week and do that. We're saying goodbye to that. We're throwing it out the window and really going back to self of what am I good at doing? What's my communication style? And then you go from there.
I love that. I've often thought about doing an outfit of the day just because I work from home and I have on sweatpants, and I'm always in like a mishmash of, and so everybody's got these super cute polished outfit of the day. Like, so I've always thought about doing one just because I always look like a hot mess when depending on the day. So I love that. Yeah, just make it your own and be you. If I were showing up fully like dressed in heels and a suit, my clients would be like, "Who is that? That is not that is not Sammy. That is not real." Okay, Amanda, how do people connect with you, learn more about you, and all the fantastic things you have to offer?
Everything is over on my Instagram at the Wolfe with an E.co. That is my company name. And it links out to my TikToks, all the platforms, and all of my offers, digital products on how you can build the Insta site yourself, as well. If you wanted somebody to do it for you, my team takes it off your hands and we take care of it from A to Z.
I love that. And we'll link all of that up again in the show notes at thefirstclick.net/219, as well as examples so you can see, because I looked at some and they're so fun and pretty and personalized. And like you said, just grab your attention right away, which I think is fantastic. So I'm definitely going to dive deeper into this myself. So excited for that. Amanda, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Holy cow. I can't even tell you what my biggest takeaway was here. There were so many good nuggets. I am excited to really reassess some of my social media strategies and figure it out. I've been wanting to get on TikTok. I've been wanting to do more reels. And so this is kind of the push, I think, to get me going. So let me know, what kind of content would you like to see from us on these channels? And are you following us on Instagram at The First Click Marketing? We're there, we're active, not quite on stories, but we're getting back to it. But I would love to connect with you there and engage with you and let me know. Do you want me to start doing my outfit of the day videos? My son would cringe, but that's okay. We're here for the fun. Anywho, thank you so much for listening. And if you found the content in this episode helpful, we'd really appreciate if you would subscribe wherever you stream this podcast, or if you're watching it on YouTube, so you don't miss out on any episodes. Remember, we have 2 new bonus episodes launching every single month from some of our friends' podcasts and my sister podcast, Easy Style with Sammy, so that you can get more resources and tips from other people in areas that we are experts in. So make sure you subscribe so you get notified when those bonus episodes drop. But for now, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.